He's Chase Sr., I'm Harrison Graham. Any given Thursday, rolling along here on Thursday as always. And hey, what are we talking about today? The latest on Ben Simmons once again.
Yeah, the saga continues, the back and forth continues. And man, I'm so over talking about Ben Simmons, but this continues to be one of the biggest stories in the NBA. Yeah. Conflicting reports about whether or not he's been in contact with his teammates. I was listening to a podcast with Bill Simmons and Jackie McMullen. Bill Simmons had reported that he has heard that Simmons hasn't talked to some of his teammates. McMullen then followed up by saying Joel Embiid never wants to talk to him again, but guys like Danny Green, who are nice to everybody and worry about the culture, long-term veterans, Tobias Harris, who are easy to get along with, have been in contact with Ben Simmons. I wouldn't want to talk to the guy because I think he's a flake, and I want my friends to be real ones.
I'm pro Embiid, by the way. Like
me too.
I'm someone who lives my life with I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
No doubt.
I like second chances, but Simmons has proven time and time again over about 6 months now that he's just a fraud.
Yes.
And I don't want anything to do with that when I'm running a professional franchise and a business. And if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm fighting my ass off through knee injuries night after night, and Ben Simmons is just nowhere to be found. I wouldn't want to talk to him either. I am pro Embiid on this stance. I get what Tobias Harris is trying to say, he can come back whenever he wants. I think that's weak. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with that, man. I don't think – if I'm the Sixers, I want nothing to do with Ben Simmons.
I hope Rick Bennett is still watching because he asked me a couple weeks ago on 76ers Now what the consensus was here at Chat Sports about how people feel about Ben Simmons. That's coming from a guy in Harrison Graham who grew up in Texas. I'm the one who grew up in the Philadelphia area, but Harrison Graham feels the way that I do. He feels the way that many of you do. Now, there are conflicting reports now about whether or not Ben Simmons is going to get traded leading up to the NBA trade deadline. I'm going to call smoke on this. I don't believe this report from Jake Fischer, and I do believe that he's a viable reporter, but he did say this for Bleacher Report. There's a belief among rival executives and league personnel that Simmons could even remain on the Sixers roster past the trade deadline. Daryl Morey's asking price remains higher than any rival front office has been willing to match. The weekly updates on Simmons' status with the team and whether he's being fined have had no impact on his trade value among rival teams, which is good news on that. And I'm calling BS on this report. Now, I understand that Daryl Morey went on 97.5 The Fanatic back a couple weeks ago and said, buckle in, it's going to be a long ride because Ben Simmons is under contract for the next 4 years, and this could last for the next 4 years. I just think at some point, Daryl Morey is going to budge just a tad. I think Daryl Morey is a great executive. I think he's trying to field and feel his way across the NBA landscape for the best offer, as he should, because Ben Simmons is a 3-time All-Star, one of the best defenders in the league, and while he might be missing a lot of components to his game on the offensive end of the floor, he does have elite qualities. Daryl Morey should have probably traded him away from James Harden, who's getting off to a disastrous start this year and looks like shit, by the way. But it's my opinion that I think Daryl Morey is doing the right thing with just waiting this out a bit, finding him, putting the pressure on Ben Simmons, continuing to field calls to see what the best offer is out there.
Yeah, I think the challenge Philadelphia is going to have is if you don't trade him by the deadline because you don't get the offer you want, I don't really get that because how many more years of good Joel Embiid can you really expect?
Yeah,
I mean,
got to maximize on his prime.
I mean, hopefully it's 5, 6, 7, or 8, but I think that's asking a lot, man. I mean, he's got a lot of mileage on that body. Yeah. He's an old, what is he, 27, 28?
26, 27?
He's old. He's an old 26 or 27. You have to treat him like he's 30, in my opinion.
At least he doesn't look and act like Greg Oden.
No. And look, even if he's 80% of what he is at some point, he's still going to be a good player. But, you're probably only going to have prime Embiid until he's about 30 or 31. Then he's going to start to slow down. I mean, he already kind of is because he's never 100%. But if you're locked in on, hey, we're building around Joel Embiid, if you don't trade Simmons by the deadline, you have failed as a franchise. You just have. You have to trade him this year during the season because you can't be wasting postseasons with Joel Embiid still playing in his prime. It would be a disaster if they did not trade him by the March, April, whatever the deadline is. I think that would be a catastrophic mistake. And again, I'm not saying you can trade him for a sack of potatoes, but At some point, you're going to have to compromise with yourself as a franchise and come together and say, look, okay, even if we don't get an all-star, can we get a Colin Sexton? Can we get something and just turn the page on this? Because kudos to Philadelphia. They've played pretty well this year despite this distraction.
With the COVID distractions,
yeah,
too.
And I don't expect that that can't translate for 40 or 50 games, though. I mean, it's going to catch up to them at some point. So we'll ask you guys, will the Sixers trade Ben Simmons, type T for trade, S for stay? I still think they will, because I just refuse to believe they can afford to let this drag on for this entire season.
Yeah, that's why I called BS on the report. Next up on the docket for us, Charles Barkley continues to body bag Ben Simmons. And we know that Charles Barkley, a Philadelphia 76er great, ain't scared to keep it a buck and speak the truth. And he's been going at Ben Simmons' neck for the last couple of months. On NBA on TNT the other night, he had this to say. And I really resonate with this because I feel the same as Charles Barkley, because Ben Simmons continues to be a fraud, a stiff, and soft. This dude has done everything he can not to be recruited. They started the season begging him to come back, so they have messaged him. They wanted to go see him in Los Angeles. He said, don't come see me. He came back, and then he acted like a jerk in practice. They wanted him back. Then because he wanted to get paid, and he started acting like a jerk, and then they kicked him out, they gave him another chance. They said, okay, you said you've got some issues. He said, I don't want to see you guys. They start finding him. Now he's back. They bent over backwards to kiss this dude's ass. Now it's time they start kicking his ass. Charles Barkley sees what we all see in Ben Simmons. This guy lacks mental fortitude. He lacks mental toughness, which is a prerequisite for any athlete in Philadelphia. It's funny. Ben Simmons can't take the pressure cooker, but Joel Embiid and Bryce Harper love playing in the city of brotherly love. And my biggest issue with Ben Simmons, he has never owned up to his mistakes. He has never taken accountability for his failures and his flaws. And now he's trying to blame everybody else. And he's acting like a sore child, a butthurt child who doesn't get what he wants, and I'm just frankly tired of it. That's why I want to see Daryl Morey pull the trigger on a deal.
Look, when it comes down to it, he can't handle Philadelphia. It's just a fact. I keep telling him, and I know he probably watches this show. Kidding, I don't actually know that. The advice I would continue to give him, though, is that, dude, come play well for a month, then you'll get traded. Teams aren't taking the trade, a Ben Simmons trade, seriously, because they don't know where he's at as a player, where he's at mentally. If he would put his head down and play for a month for the Sixers, he could get traded after that.
Yeah.
But the way he's acting is actually making it more difficult for him to get what he wants, and that is to get within another franchise. Now, maybe at this point he's just like, fuck it. I'm getting paid $30 million a year to just sit at home because they're not finding me at this point. I'm just going to let it ride out. And if that's the case, he's a loser for that, because that is the opposite of what working in America should be all about. And it's like, hard work results in getting paid for that hard and good work, and he's kind of weaseling his way around that right now. I'm not saying he's doing that intentionally, but I'm saying if he is, he's even more of a fraud than we already know him to be. Dude, just come back. Play 15 games. If you play well, you're going to get traded. Like, the problem is teams are scared to trade for him right now because they don't know what they're getting in Ben Simmons at this point in time.
And is he taking this advice from Rich Paul? And if that's the case, that's just bad client management by Rich Paul.
Yeah.
Because you're exactly right. All he's doing right now is damaging his reputation across the league and then damaging his trade value.
Yep.
There's no question that Ben Simmons is done with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is done with Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons never wants to put a 76ers jersey on again. But by acting like a child and a sore loser, you are damaging your trade value, making it harder for this organization to give you away. And you're under contract for the next 4 years, so you're not fulfilling your employee obligations, but that's also somewhat valuable for the team that's trading for you. But teams who want to trade for you don't want to take in some malcontent who's making a bunch of money and has never done anything to grow his offensive game or get better.
Dude, I wouldn't want my favorite team to trade for him.
Yeah, no.
Even if it's like you're not giving up that much, because I don't trust him. And if you can't trust a guy making $30+ million, it's not worth it. It just isn't. Fill in the blank. Don't cuss like I did. Ben Simmons is a blank. If you've watched this show enough, fraud, stiff, bum. Those all apply to filling in this sentence. Let us know. Fill in the blank. Just do not cuss. And while you're answering that, don't forget to subscribe to Philadelphia 76ers Now. Don't be a fraud, stiff, bum. Don't be like Ben Simmons. Subscribe. YouTube.com/76ers TV. Philly Bull Chase Sr. is going to have you guys covered.
Got you.